What I find very interesting about this particular video is the fact that you've got a man like Ron Paul, who's very high up in the government, not even allowed to see what's going on in the Federal Reserve. Now, what I'd like to read to everybody here is something that my son picked up, and I'll just read it to you. It's by Thomas Jefferson of 1802, who helped frame the American Constitution. And what he said was, "I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered." Thomas Jefferson, 1802. Now, that is exactly true. I mean, just listen to that. I mean, you have a constitution which somehow has been broken, and you've got people who are not, because the Federal Reserve is well known, is not part of the government. It's an independently owned banking organization. There we are, private bank, issuing your money on their behalf, first by deflation, then by inflation, deflation, and now we're just about to go into hyperinflation. You lose your homes, lose your businesses, you lose everything to the banks, and the banks then own everything, and you become a slave of these organizations. That's exactly what we've got. And you know, here we are. Here's a man like this man over here, McIlvaney, who writes some excellent articles, and I've had a long relationship with him, and very well respected by people who are in the know. And you know, he says, "Are we yet hyperinflation report?" Asking whether we're in hyperinflation yet. And here's another man, Weiss, who's highly respected for his work, and you know, he sort of says, you know, we're in a serious problem here. We've got the same idiots in charge of the bus that we are sat in as the ones that caused the accident in the first place. Only this time they're going far faster, probably about 45 times more faster. And you know, he in actual fact was warning about the crash for a long time, and then they kept on writing to these people, the same people are in charge now, and they kept on saying rubbish, it won't happen, etc. And of course the collapse happened, and you had banks like Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, and the largest investment banks get into trouble. Countrywide Financial, like Fannie Mae, America's largest mortgage lender, and you've got Washington Mutual, America's largest saving and loan corporation, and Citigroup, America's largest consumer organization. And if we look at Britain, we had places like Lloyd's, and we had RBS, and we had organizations like Halifax, and all these organizations get into serious trouble, and our Prime Minister just ignored all the warnings. He then also went and sold 60% of our gold reserves for $275 in the ounce against advice, and he sold that lot, and when it went up to 1,070, so it cost us billions in lost money just on that. But he sold it, of course, for euros, which of course is the same group that owns the dollar, because the dollar is a privately owned currency, and so is the euro. It belongs to banks. It's a group of banks, and that consists of Morgans, it consists of Rockefeller, and of course Rothschild, etc. And and most people don't know that. They think it's a government institution. It isn't, and I don't think the euro is either. As a matter of fact, most of these currencies are owned by private organizations. So we have got a serious situation. If you look there, you can see on the, I think it's the right-hand side of that diagram there, where the economy was at the collapse of Lehman Brothers, and how much money they've pumped into the economy. You can see just on the high side there. You can just see that an amazing amount of money, which has to be paid back. Now, the governments have the right to create money, fiat money, in other words, it comes straight out of the nowhere. And but instead of that, they've gone and made loans apparently from banks to pay banks. So we've got this ridiculous situation. We're borrowing from banks to pay to banks. And now, just in Britain alone, we've borrowed 1.4 trillion, not billion, not million, trillion. And on top of that, of course, we've raised loans to for the shortage of taxes, another trillion, and then we've just given another 50 billion to banks now. So I think it works out to 2.45 trillion on an economy that's only about 2 trillion. So we've far past the GDP of this country. on a declining tax base. I mean, companies are going out of business, people are losing their jobs, so the tax income is dropping through the floor. And the government's answer to all this is to tax more and tax more, because yet they know from people like Margaret Thatcher and Reagan, the only way to do this, to get the country going again and to get the turnover going and cut everything back, is to reduce taxes dramatically so the entrepreneurs can get going and the whole thing can start operating again. And then they filled the fiscus. It was absolutely full, embarrassingly so. So, you know, this answer of Brown, I mean, we really need new thinking on this whole thing. Mr. Brown has not got the answers, I don't think, and I don't think anybody's got the answers, but I think we should be reducing taxes to get things going. And, you know, you've got other men, you know, who are telling us what's going to happen. Now, I want to tell you, the Bible is an end-time book, and I just want to give you some information here that most people don't seem to think. They think it's a book written in ancient times for that time, yet it keeps on saying it's an end-time book. And I'll just read this one here from James, and it says, "Come now, you rich men, weep and howl for the miseries that are coming upon you. Your riches are corrupted, and your garments are moth-eaten." In other words, you know, if you look at it, your money is being corrupted all the time and declining. Your gold and silver are corroded. Their corrosion will testify against you and eat your flesh, as it were fire. You have heaped treasure together for the last days. Behold, the wages you have failed to pay, the labourers and reap your fields are crying out against you. The cries of those who reaped have reached the ears of Yahweh of hosts. You have lived on the earth in pleasure and self-indulgence. You have fattened yourselves for the day of slaughter. This is an end-time reference. It is not. It is not, and it says it's the end time. And so is Daniel, and so is Revelation, and Ezekiel. All those books are end-time books that tell you what's going to happen and what is happening. But you know, these men also are believers, and then, like McIlvany, is a strong believer as well. And it's because of his beliefs and etc. He seems to get it right, because that book tells him what's going to happen. We know what's going to happen, and it isn't a happy scenario. And how these countries are going to come out of it is anybody's guess, because nobody seems to have any answers. And I think you see time after time in all discussions, nobody has any answers. Brown says he has the answers, but he doesn't have the answers. Nobody has any answers to come out of this. Thank you very much for listening, and I would suggest that you have a look and see what we've got for you, because a lot of people don't know what's going on, and I've got a lot of references which I've collected over many years, because it's been an interest of mine, a consuming interest of the last 50 odd years. What is going on, how it's going, and reading up current events and reading up on history, because I'm a historian. I love history. And thank you very much, and visit us on that site there. Thank you very much.